I will say of YHVH, he is my refuge and my fortress. Psalms 91:2. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And welcome to Well Water Ministry. I would ask for each and every one of you if you would pray for me. I'm in a lot of pain. Been in a lot of pain for the past 5 weeks. I'll have some tests run Wednesday. Hopefully we'll see what's wrong with me. So I just want you to pray that the test results will be positive, good, or whatever, but that I will find out what's going on with me. I ask all of y'all out there in YouTube land to pray for me too, because I'm hurting pretty bad today. But we're still going to follow with the Lord's work today because it is the Shabbat.
It is.
And I do have a talent. I'm called to teach, and I believe I should be teaching whether I'm hurting or not, because I'm pretty sure there were a lot of times the apostles were hurting. A lot of times Paul had been striped. A lot of times he'd been in prison shackled, and because he was hurting, he didn't stop. You know, if I can go to work for a little bit, if I can watch YouTube, if I can watch Netflix, I should be able to talk about my God. Amen. So I'm going to give it the best of God. Y'all just pray for me, please. Now, people use different names for the God of the Bible. We all understand that. A lot of people use God. Some use Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahuwah. I use YHVH, and I want to explain why. And trust me, it does matter why I do this. I say YHVH, it's called the Tetragrammaton, which is Greek meaning consisting of 4 letters. But it's consisting of 4 Hebrew letters. And these 4 Hebrew letters are Yod, which means hand, Hey, which means behold, Vav, which means nail, and Hey, which means behold. So when I say YHVH and you put it all together, what I'm actually saying, Rabbi Rose, is behold the hand, behold the nail. Now when I say that, who do y'all think of? Automatically you think of who? Yahshua, Jesus, our Messiah. Now, and that's another one. A lot of people say Jesus. I choose to say Yahshua like on my shirt because that's his Hebrew name. But another reason, Daniel, is that Yahshua in Hebrew means what? God saves. Yah means God. It means salvation. It means God saves. So when you think about it, they literally go hand in hand, right? I mean, YHVH, behold the hand, behold the nail. Yahshua, God saves. Salvation. How many times do we hear YHVH say this? I will deliver you out of Mitzrayim with my mighty hand and my outstretched arms. So it makes kind of sense, and it flows when you're saying YHVH and Yeshua, because they both have the Yod in it, and they both have the YHVH, Yahshua, the Hey. Yeah, the Hey. So, you know, God and Jesus, they don't kind of flow. I'm not saying don't say God and Jesus. What I'm saying is I say YHVH because it reflects on my Messiah, and I say Yahshua because it reflects on my God. So this brings me to another. This is not thus saith Kingeth Jameth, but thus thinketh Jeff. If God saves, which is what Yahshua means, right? If God saves, what did Yahshua do? Have you really thought about it? If God saves, because that's the name of his son, Yahshua, well, what did Yahshua do? Can I drop a little Bible on you? Do y'all mind if I drop a little Bible on you?
Go ahead.
He shed his blood for you is what he did. He did not save you. His Father did. For God so loved the world, he sent his son. That's John 3:16. Stay with me now. I know what I'm talking about. You see, Yeshua paid the atonement.
Yeah.
He didn't save us. His blood covered the mercy seat, sprinkled 7 times on our doorposts, our lintels, our thresholds of what? Our hearts. You see, it's Pesach language. This is Passover language. YHVH and Yeshua is Passover language. Because Yeshua was our Pesach Korban. Pop test, everybody but you, because you speak Hebrew. We learned this last week. What does Korban mean? For those that were there. Offering or sacrifices. That's right. Daniel gets a sucker tonight. Because without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sins. Yeshua shed his blood to pay our atonement, to show us the greatest love story ever told. And we see this greatest love story ever told all throughout this Torah. For how many times do we see YHVH say this? I delivered. Who delivered? YHVH. I delivered you with my mighty hand and my outstretched arms. Does anybody know, numbers man, how many times this is said in the Torah? Raise your hand if you know.
72.
8. Now what is 8 in Hebrew? Shemini. A new beginning. Oh my, oh my. Do you see the connection now? Do you see the connection of God saving us to give us a new beginning? Reminding us of who he is. He is our Savior. And what he is. He is our fortress. And why he is our refuge. You see, our Elohim, our Creator, our King, our Judge, is also YHVH, a covenant-keeping personal God who desires a personal relationship with you. And he sent a substitute sacrifice to shed his blood for you. And then Our new journey starts with YHVH delivering us from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, from the trials and tribulations and the death penalty of sin that we were in. Is everybody with me? We having a good time yet? Because I am. But you see, we're coming to the end of the book of Numbers. So let's quickly reflect on how we got here. You know, Bamidbar, in the wilderness. Because Numbers is basically a continuation of the Exodus story. Sure, Leviticus is between them, right? But the journey actually starts here, at the end of the journey. And that, my friends, is my lesson tonight. The journey starts here. Avinu Makeno, Shabbat Shamayim, Perek Et Zed Lamad. Our Father, our King, who art in heaven, bless this teaching. You see, Israel has been delivered from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, delivered from the death penalty of sin that they were in, basically. Spiritually, physically, they were in hell. But they have traveled basically in circles for almost 40 years. Bamidbar, in the wilderness. Now, we all know here, but I want you to know, the book of Numbers in Hebrew is actually called Bamidbar, in the wilderness. And I like using Bamidbar more than Numbers because when you think of Numbers growing up in the Baptist church, we thought, okay, Numbers, God was counting his people, but that's not what it means in Hebrew. And my God's Hebrew. And he speaks in Hebrew to Hebrew people, and I want to learn the Hebrew. I want to understand what the original writer meant when he wrote this, not what the English translator said. So when we say Moses told them to take a census, in Hebrew it was what? Lift your head up. So you're in the wilderness, and YHVH says, lift your head up. Why? Because I want to see you. I want to remember you. I want to make sure I can count on you in my camp. See, that means more to me than thinking that my God is counting me. Right. Knowing that my God is counting on me to be where I'm supposed to be. That's why I call it Bamidbar. I think it just means so much more to me. And see, right now, Israel is facing another crossing, the Jordan River. And the only thing standing between them and the promised land is what? The Jordan. But YHVH has been preparing Israel not just to enter a land, but to become a faithful virgin bride. And we see this in this parashah. It is another double portion, bringing us to a climatic ending of the book of Numbers. I never thought I'd be this excited about the book of Numbers, but I really am. I really am. And this Torah portion, double, is called Mattot, which is tribes, and Massei, which means journeys. So basically it's what? The journeys of the tribes of Israel. And that's basically where we are at. Bamidbar, in the wilderness with the tribes of Israel. And just who is Israel? Biblically, spiritually, who is Israel? It's the 12 tribes. But it's also those aliens and sojourners and strangers and those sinners saved by grace that followed Moses out of Egypt and that follows the God of Moses out of Mitzrayim. All now a Chai. That is Israel. It's just not a, well, I'm a Jew, well, I'm from Gad, well, I'm from Benjamin. No. It's anybody that follows God in the Bible. It's spiritual Israel. That means you too, Christian. You see it from Numbers 30, verse 2 through 36 through 13. And this Torah portion starts with vows. And then more talk of the war with the Midianites. Remember last Torah portion, Moses told Israel to what? To destroy and crush all the Midianites. But here he is asking them, why did you spare the women and the children? I said crush them all because they spared the women and the children. And so Moses then instructs Israel, kill all the women who have known a man and every male child. Now, that sounds pretty harsh. Kill all the women and kill the baby boys? So what really is Moses doing here? He is drawing a line in the sand and stopping the plague. For those women brought sexual seduction into the camp. We must be very, very mindful of who we bring into our camp. But here's the real kicker. Did y'all know that Moses' wife was a Midianite? Oh yeah, Moses was instructing Israel to wipe out his wife's people. My oh my. So what's the moral of that story? It's very simple. Before you can cross Jordan and enter the promised land, you might have to so-called kill some family and friends as they try to seduce you back into Babylon. We have to be careful of who we entertain, of who's in our camp. In this portion, it then talks about the distribution of the wealth and the land. And then before crossing the Jordan, the tribes of Gad and Reuben and half of Manasseh, they decided to stay on the east side of the Jordan because the land is good for cattle, and that's the occupation. And then as we journey into the last portion, Massei, which means journey, we see the 40-year journey of Israel, each place they camped. And then Moses provides instructions for conquering the land, for defining the borders, and also how to divide the land up per tribe. The larger tribes get larger, the smaller, smaller, but each get the same equal portion. And then we see there will be 48 cities with 6 cities of refuge. were those accused of manslaughter, accidentally killing someone, where they may go for safety and for a fair trial, so that the next of kin will not kill them. As always, when I read this, I was just simply wow. I mean, what a journey literally we have been through with Israel. Don't you kind of feel like we've all been walking Bamidbar with them during these teachings? Because I do. I feel like I'm in the wilderness with them. And as we began Numbers, we realized that Israel and us really are Bamidbar. We really are in the wilderness, because we are being numbered in his army, a set-apart people, willing to follow the cloud wherever he leads, but also to stop when he stops. And along this journey, we saw many dangers of fear. We saw all kinds of unbelief, a ton of complaining, and so much rebellion to last a lifetime, or at least 40 years. And we saw all this with the 12 spies. We saw Korah's rebellion against the authority of YHVH. We saw the bronze serpent biting, killing Israel. We saw Balaam's his compromise with the world. We even see the spiritual leader of Israel, Moses, deny direct command and strike the rock, not once but twice, when told to speak to the rock. But you know what? Each and every lesson showed us this, that the greatest enemy was never Bamidbar. It was never in the wilderness. Matter of fact, it wasn't even in Egypt. The greatest enemy is the condition of the heart. And what's the one thing that YHVH does not own? Our hearts, what he desires the most. And that's teaching us this, that rebellion begins in the heart, and it will lead to sin. And then comes Pinchas with this message right here. The plague stops here. One man stood in the gap between life and death for Israel, with a zeal for YHVH's jealousy, his jealousy of his covenant of holiness that he made with Israel and with us. And Pinchas drew a line in the sand that day and refused to allow that plague, that sin, to continue to spread in all Israel. This action of only one man who stood alone for righteousness and holy, when no one else moved, when Moses didn't move, the high priest, nobody moved, Pinchas moved. Be a Pinchas. Defend YHVH's holiness with his word. And this reminds us of this, that there comes a time when a compromise with this world must end, and each and every believer must decide where they stand in this world of life and death. We must choose today. And I say, please choose life. Choose life. And now we arrive at this double Torah portion, Mattot-Massei, the tribe's journey, where their journey is actually coming to an end. It's now time for Israel to choose life or the world. Because before Israel can cross over and enter the promised land of the forefathers, vows must be made. Because YHVH starts this Torah portion with a vow. It was not by accident, Rabbi Rose. You see, a covenant relationship is built on what? Faithfulness. Chapter 30 teaches us to keep our word. Let your yes be yes and your nay be nay. Our lives must reflect that covenant that we enter. For are we not called to walk in faith? Are we not called to obey the Torah? Are we not called, most importantly, to prepare ourselves as a pure virgin bride awaiting the return of our King? Yes, we are. That's what we're called to do. And Bamidbar, the wilderness, is simply preparation. It's YHVH's way of seeing who will be counted on in his camp. And the promised land is participation. Just who will follow him all the way to the promised land. For didn't we see Gad and Reuben and half of Manasseh stop short to stay in a land that they, listen to me, felt at home at? Right? And now for those that have prepared for the promised land and entered in, the journey now begins. Because getting so-called saved, that is not the end game. My friends, there is so much, much more. As chapter 30 explains, we had to make a vow, a covenant, before we can enter the promised land. YHVH speaks of a vow even before speaking of a war that we all know is coming. Why? Because before we can conquer the army, the enemy, our hearts must be faithful to him as a virgin bride. And if we call ourselves that virgin bride, the bride of Christ, should we not act like it? Should we not do what we're told to do? And did y'all know this? That our bridegroom, he gave us a love letter and instructions on how he wants us to show our love back to him. Did y'all know that? It's John 14:15. If you love me, did you know this is written in red in the Bible? When it's written in red, who's speaking? The Messiah. The Messiah says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And our Messiah's commandments are the same as his Father's. The word is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It is never changing. Free teaching here. Oh, by the way, y'all each owe me $5 with this one. But this right here is free. When the God of our Bible established the Sabbath, when he established the commandments, the feast days, and the dietary laws, there were no Jews. And here's a biblical fact. YHVH called them his.
Yes.
And he said they are his for his people. It is his covenant with his people to set them apart from the world. And our God so desires for his people to be a covenant-keeping people. Because our God is what? A covenant-keeping God. He will never go back on his word. And his son cannot go against what was written. And the only thing written when our Messiah walked on this earth was what? The Tanakh, the Old Testament. And this matters. Why? Because Israel often failed because they broke covenant before they ever lost a battle. There might be a reason you're not winning the battle in the test you're in. It's because you're not keeping your covenant, you're not keeping your vow. Do the verse, avoid the curse. It's the bottom line. But when we get saved and accept the blood of our Messiah, we enter a covenant with YHVH. People get it wrong. They think they're entering a covenant with Yahshua. We're not. We're entering a covenant with YHVH. Remember, he sent his son to shed his blood for us, a substitute sacrifice for our transgressions. And when we apply this blood, we are now in covenant with YHVH. A vow has been made. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. We then become the virgin bride. Most know that. They realize that once you're saved, you're the bride of Christ, right? But the thing that most, what's a good word, avoid, maybe, is that our king is looking for that virgin bride. He's not looking for a bride, he's looking for a virgin bride. That's where the rubber meets the road. Because our bridegroom is looking for a virgin bride that is keeping his love letter. All of it. Not just the parts that they find attractive. And as the virgin bride of our Messiah, we have actually made a vow to YHVH. We have accepted his son's blood in a place of what? Our death. And did we not pray, Father, forgive me, I accept your son to follow him? Basically, right? We all did. And just how did our Messiah walk? In the Torah. Covenant accepted. Do you see where I'm going with this? If you're saved, you made a vow with YHVH. He said, let your yea be yea, your nay be nay. If you made a vow, this is for you. Keep your vow because he will not break his. And now, through our Bamidbar, this wilderness, he is refining us, testing us, correcting us, and preparing us. How? By seeing if we keep our vows. And how do we do that? By being a doer of all his word. Spoiler alert here, okay, for y'all. I'm going to give you one. This is for another freebie. We will be judged by how we keep our covenant with him. We will be judged by his commandments. It will be a Hebrew courtroom with a Hebrew judge. Judgment is based on his commandments. I'm so glad my Jewish Messiah is my Jewish lawyer because he knows the word better than anybody because he is the walking Torah. If you love me, keep my commandments. Be that vow. But until then, we must understand this, that crossing over into the inheritance is not the finish line. It's the beginning. Our journey truly starts when we live out the promises that we made to our God that happened when we accepted the blood atonement of his son. This is why the Mattot-Massei journey is so important, because YHVH records every place that Israel camped. He does the same to us. Even the painful, regretful ones, you know, the bars, the drugs, we'll stop right there. But you know what? Man, I can't forget them. And don't you forget it either, because it's where we were getting prepared. You see, we must understand that every Bamidbar season has a reason. Karen, maybe we needed correction. Jennifer, maybe we needed refining. Heather, maybe it's just a test. Or Daniel, maybe we just did not do the verse. It's why we should not simply just, well, I read the Bible, I read the Torah portion. We must walk it out. Because every stop along the way is preparing us for the promised land. Just as every trial prepares us for the kingdom. You see, I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me, but I don't want to wait until I get to the kingdom to be kadosh, to be holy. I want to be holy this side of the promised land. Don't you? Don't you want to please your bridegroom and live holy for him now? For if I'm waiting until I get there, am I set apart people from the world? No. But how can we be holy now in this Babylon, this world of sin? By reflecting on every stage of our journey, every camp we made before we entered. How many of you remember Egypt when you were in sin? Never forget it. Never forget how it felt before YHVH with his mighty hand and his outstretched arms delivered you. How many remember whatever it was, the Red Sea he parted for you to walk through and be cleansed of? Never forget that. And we got to remember Mount Sinai. We can't forget Mount Sinai. That's where our God spoke to us and gave us his commandments. And we said yes, right? We made a vow. And please embrace Bamidbar, for that means we are no longer in Mitzrayim, but in YHVH's hand. You know, we're out of sin, really, but we're not quite at the promised land yet. Always remember that. And understand that all the victories we received were of him, because we did not achieve them. YHVH did. Because our journey, our testimony, it reminds us that YHVH has been faithful every step of the way. If you look back, and now we must be faithful every step of the way. Why? Because others are now watching our journey. Will we be faithful to our vow for them to see and possibly follow us all the way home, so that that old stranger, sojourner, alien, old sinner saved by grace, that they'll leave Mitzrayim for the promised land? How amazing would that be? But it's essential that we drive out the inhabitants of our inherited land. For YHVH warned us, if we do not remove them, they will become thorns in our side. We must separate ourselves from this land and this people, because half-hearted obedience is not obedience and leads to rebellious sin. And I'm not sure about y'all, but I want my inheritance not only in eternity, but I want it here, because I am oh so tired of this world. I want his. Don't you want his world instead of ours? And as we see how Mattot begins with keeping our vows and Massei ends with receiving our inheritance, what lies between these 2 points is our journey. We must keep our covenant, our vow. We must remove compromise. Do not settle on the wrong side of the Jordan. You're right there. Keep going. Press on. We have to learn from every stop we had in Bamidbar. And please, please finish your journey and receive your inheritance. And in closing, I want to quickly touch on the land being divided. There was to be 48 cities, 6 cities of refuge. These cities of refuge were for anyone who accidentally killed someone, protecting them as long as they stayed in the refuge city. If they were to leave the city, then the avenger of death had every right to kill them. They had to stay within the walls of that refuge city. Who wants to learn the Hebrew word today? Anybody? Hand. Grace. We say grace. It's hand. And most look at grace as a, well, get out of jail free card. Well, by the grace of God, I can sin and do what I want to. Yeah, just do what I want to because of mercy and grace, right? People use grace so out of biblical Hebrew context. Because hand, grace, is 2 Hebrew letters. A het, which is a fence or an enclosure, and a nun, which is seed, life, or continuation. So hand, this what we call grace, is when someone opens the fence or the gate of their heart and creates a safe place for you where new life can grow and your future is secure. Say it with me, hand. Because that one word right there sums up refuge cities. You see, these refuge cities, they were never about just escaping death. They pointed to Yahshua, God saves, because we ran to him as guilty murderers for our transgressions, and we slayed his son. Listen to what chapter 35, 16 through 18 says. And if he smite him with an instrument of iron, he is a murderer. Oh, that hammer and nail down. If he smite him with throwing a stone, he is a murderer. Who knows the Hebrew word for stone here? Aben. Ab, father. Ben, son. The father's son. You know, the stone that Moses struck twice. The stone that the builders rejected. The son of the father that we all have struck many, many, many times instead of speaking. And if he smite him with a hand weapon of wood, he is a murderer, if I be lifted up for all to see. We, every one of us here and listening, took that hammer and we nailed it to that stake. And as we did that, we struck the stone all the way to Golgotha. He is my refuge city. The Hebrew word for refuge is Mattot-Massei, which means shelter. But the root word, and the root word means so much. The root, if you'd ever fall in love with the root, you'd understand. Am I not right? The root word is hasad. It means to flee for protection. Because even though I was guilty when I entered his refuge, I found safety. He sheltered me from the avenger of blood. For as blood must be shed for remission of sins, my Redeemer became my avenger. His blood sprinkled 7 times, atonement paid. Did you know this avenger in Hebrew is Gaal, meaning next of kin? As in such to buy back a relative's property. Yahshua purchased my inheritance on the cross. Or better yet, Mary his widow. Oh my, the greatest love story ever. How a prince left his throne to die for an adulterous bride, only to resurrect, to ascend, to prepare them a city of refuge. And he is returning soon for his virgin bride. And Elohim's grace is this, that a holy God sent his unblemished lamb to be sacrificed for his adulterous bride. Biblical grace is this, that unblemished lamb drank our bitter cup of adultery in the garden, and then he shed his blood for us. That's grace. YHVH, his grace is this, that he sent his son to open his heart so that we could find new life in his refuge. And then he enclosed that city with 7 sprinkles of blood, a vow, a covenant that we all accept and we apply the blood. It's Pesach, Passover language. His blood on your doorpost, his blood on your lintels, his blood filling your threshold, his wings spread as he Pesach leaps over your threshold. Malachi 4:2 says, if you fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will arise, and he did. And there is healing in his wings. This is Pesach talk. If you have to, crawl. Crawl through the crowd, for we all have an issue of blood. And grab the hem of his garment, his word, his vow, his covenant, and never, never, never let go. Hence, grace is this, that a holy God does not open up the earth as with Korah when we strike the rock. That's grace. Use his grace, and stay in his city, for he paid our debt. He bought back our inheritance. He restored our place in his kingdom and is now preparing to return for his virgin bride. We might have entered as fugitives, but we will leave as heirs. We have left rebellion for redemption. We drew the line. The plague stops here. We have now started our journey home. Be that vow, living faithfully as the virgin bride, eagerly awaiting the return of her bridegroom. And then our journey will end in his grace, for he is my refuge. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.